Sony has always held a very special place in my heart, and not for the same reasons others would utter a sentence like that. I never had one of their consoles, I haven't really played many of their exclusives, but as a company they helped shape the gaming industry. I looked up to them for a while, the decisions they made seemed so thoughtful and considerate. They wondered what their fans wanted, what would make our platform a better experience. They worked harder to offer a true service to the people who were on their platform, and it did them well. They reached the top, and now I hate them. The sad thing is, we don't really have to go that far back to understand why. With the PS3, online gaming was free. Nobody was forced to pay for a subscription service just to play games with their friends, but Microsoft was making bank on that con, and understandably, Sony followed suit. But money's like cocaine. Sure, Microsoft will sniff themselves a line every now and then, but once Sony got a whiff, a line here and there wasn't enough. They needed all the cocaine. Now Barry, you might say, I haven't noticed Sony being that awful, and if you haven't followed the A True Service series, this video probably seems like it's coming out of nowhere. So let's catch you up a little bit, starting with PS Now. A couple years ago, Sony implemented a $20 service that would allow PC gamers to play PlayStation games anytime they wanted. At first, this seemed to be a competitor with Microsoft, as they were selling all of their exclusives on the Windows Store, and sometimes even Steam. But it turns out Sony's idea wasn't so noble. Not only did you have to pay $20 a month, but the games were streamed from a PlayStation somewhere. Not only that, but there were only a limited amount of servers, and I remember people complaining that they'd have to wait for hours before a system was available and they could actually play. The service was also buggy, and depending on your internet connection, it wouldn't even play at all. Not to mention smaller things like the terrible audio quality, the graphics reduction in almost every game, and no settings menus for you to control and adjust your experience. This service came out 2 years ago, and as of today, it's the exact same buggy mess it was when it launched, and this had people confused. Until we found an interesting coincidence. If I have a platform like the PlayStation, and there was a platform like the PC that could emulate my games, apparently there's nothing I can do about that legally so long as there's no way for that other platform to access my games. However, if I were to launch a service that technically allowed people to play my games, I now have legal free reign to stifle emulation devs. Of course, Sony never confirmed this, but when you look at the state PS Now is in, this little legal coincidence starts to shine a little bit brighter. But that's not a huge deal, and I can even understand it. Though I would have preferred Sony not just crapping out some buggy service just to spit in the faces of those who wanted to play their games, I also can't fault them too much for protecting their intellectual property. But it doesn't stop there. In fact, that's where it all began. Not long after that, we started seeing our favorite companies working together. Microsoft started a cross-play initiative, trying as hard as they could to make it possible to play games with your friends, regardless of their platform of choice. Surprisingly, it didn't take long before everyone jumped on board. Xbox gamers and PC gamers could play anything they wanted to. Nintendo jumped in, and even some mobile games are compatible for cross-play. But not Sony. Every game that came out with crossplay enabled, Sony went in and disabled it. Rocket League, Minecraft, Fortnite. It didn't matter how much you wanted to game with your Xbox buddies, if you had a PlayStation, your player pool was restricted only to others who also had a PlayStation. Until Epic Games went around Sony, but we'll get back to that very soon. Wasn't long after that, their store became a mess, adding in games like Life of Black Tiger, Skylight Free Range 2 Gashtooine, Bricks, Spear of Destiny, Horse Racing 2016, I'm not even going to continue. Sony started developing a Steam-level issue, and to this day has not explained why trash like this started appearing on their store, nor why they endorsed it on their YouTube channel, and this crap isn't just happening in their video game department either. I talked about this before, but when I was in search of a camera, I thought about getting Sony's A7S II. The thing that turned me off about it was if I wanted to have access to their time-lapse app, which was built into the camera by the way, I would have to pay another $10. And I know I bring it up enough, but a $10 microtransaction in a $2,000 camera? Get a grip. Sony's also recently known for holding the record in the world's longest advertisement. But if you thought this couldn't get any worse, you're sadly mistaken, and it wasn't until now that I realized that I hate Sony. After Sony forcefully opted out of crossplay, Epic Games implemented a workaround through their DRM. If you make an Epic Games account, you could then link it to your PlayStation account and invite your friends from every platform. Epic Games had designed a way around Sony's controlling structure, and can you believe it? Sony took action. No, they wouldn't take action to fix PS Now, and no, they're not going to take action on all these crappy games that are on their platform, but when it comes to having fun, Sony's mission is to shut it down. If you've linked your Fortnite account to your PlayStation, you're no longer able to use that account anywhere else. Sony locked your Fortnite account to their platform, meaning if you play that account with your buddies a lot, and you want to use that account on your new PC, or your Switch, or maybe your Xbox, you won't be allowed to do it. Same thing is true if you initially connected your account to your Switch or your Xbox and then tried to use it on your PlayStation. It's simply not allowed. And where do you get off? How do you, Sony, have the audacity? You don't get to tell players who they can and can't play with. You don't get to dictate what we play and how. Sony won't move a finger when its customers are unhappy, even going as far as telling you to just get a new PlayStation when yours stops working. But when it comes to control, they'll do anything to take it. As for me, I'm done. I'm not very interested in Sony anymore. I don't particularly care what happens to them. I'm going to be spending my time getting as many of my friends off that totalitarian platform as possible, where we can play games with people on the Switch, the Xbox, the PC, hell, even a cell phone, and Sony can be off somewhere else, invited but intentionally excluding itself and alienating its player base, forcing them to play only with other PlayStation gamers instead of all of their own friends. I almost made this a True Service video, but the True Service series is dedicated to companies that I still believe in, who could still change. Sony's becoming the worst, and in a couple years when it's burned too many bridges, patronized and pissed off its community and only the fanboys are left, well, I guess you can call yourselves the last of us.